Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are tuning in to the first episode of the Luke Neill Podcast. Here and in the near future, I hope to have some amazing guests giving you tips and tricks on how to manage adulting life and talk to people that have had similar struggles to me, similar struggles with ADHD or other mental health conditions. And I think this podcast is largely going to be a bit of a tips and tricks and just getting to learn any hacks that some of the smartest people and most influential people have ever have kind of got for the common man. My first guest today is someone who I've grown a lot closer to in the last year, someone whose advice I take on a regular basis and who has had quite a big impact on my sporting career. That is Alexander Lenkowski, aka Legatron, aka Lenny. He is my strength and conditioning coach. I've been working with him for about a year now, and we've played sport together, played for the national team in American football. And we're kind of on a journey as two people that are currently self-employed to kind of deliver value to our respective audiences. In terms of his is dispelling myths about exercise and injuries, and advocating for females and males and young athletes in their respective sports. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Good evening, Alex Lenkowski, and welcome to the first episode of the Luke Neill Podcast. How does it feel to be my premier guest?
Good evening. This is absolutely outstanding. I think irrelevant of me being the first guest or being on the first episode, I think like the first thing I'd want to say is I'm absolutely buzzing for you, mate, because I know it wasn't too long ago where you were like work was doing your head in, job was grating at you, and you took the jump. You've taken the plunge and you've gone in wholehearted, two-footed, head first, whatever way around you want to think about it, and you've committed to ultimately going your own path. And I think, I don't think there's anything more difficult or anything more challenging and possibly stressful, anxiety inducing than doing it the way that you're doing it. I think it's absolutely sick. So yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing for you to have taken the plunge and be going down this route. I think it's absolutely class. And to be coaching people, helping other people, making a living and a career off that. I don't think there's anything better. Don't think there's anything more rewarding. And
it definitely is.
I'm proud of you.
I'd like to take all the credit for taking the plunge, but redundancy kind of doesn't really give you much of a choice. But it is a cliche, and I've not looked back. It's been the best thing that's happened to me. I'm happier than I've ever been. I feel more fulfilled. I've got more time, and I can do things like this, whether anyone listens to it or not. But it just means I get to have a conversation with people that interest me, and I want to get to know more about, and that people that I look up to.
Yep, that's exactly the way. That's the way I see it as well, mate. Like, I don't think anyone even listens. Well, I know people do listen to my podcast. Well, I don't want to brag. It's worldwide. It's been on every continent. Like, I don't talk about it often, so I might as well say it here. So people do listen to it, and it's weird because I sometimes sit there and think, who the fuck is going to want to listen to me? Like, I wouldn't listen to me because I'm in my own head all day long. Like, I'm all I ever hear.
Along with the other 5 voices.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's weird, like the concept that people will actually tune in to think, oh, I wonder what Alex is thinking today, or oh, I wonder what Luke's thinking today. But it happens, like, obviously, that we've got people that we follow, people that we admire, people that we kind of form our opinions of and follow along with them. We tune into them, see what they're thinking, and yeah, adding yourself into that bracket.
Well, obviously we're two red-blooded men, and as men, we probably think that people value our opinion in some way. Well, like there's the joke that every single like white man needs a podcast or something like that. But yeah, it's fun. I think it's a great way. A lot of people don't talk enough, especially in modern society. Men like don't communicate unless they're taking a piss out of each other. But then you see a lot of positivity come from men that have started podcasts. They bond. They just, even though they're just chatting shit, because it's a podcast, they kind of need to do it regularly, and that leads people to like hang out with their friends more and just having better kind of communication. And I think it's done miracles for a lot of people's mental health. And the thing I like about the medium of podcast is compared to like just listening to music, especially when you're on like long road trips or long commutes, it kind of feels like you're part of a conversation as well. Sometimes, especially if it's a subject you're interested in, it's not just like reading a book you're learning, you're kind of getting a bit of opinion, a bit of fact, a lot of podcast fact and conspiracies. But yeah, it's like having a conversation. So I'm very much looking forward to this and looking forward to see the guests that we can have on. And
yeah, well, I think like from my perspective, like podcasts are great because they give you an unfiltered kind of an unfiltered doorway into what like is going through someone else's head, and like it's just ideas, it's opinions, it's conversation, it's dialogue. And especially when you're listening to educated people, not say educated people, because educated people falls into the brackets of some people. Some of those educated people don't know what a man and a fucking woman is these days. Smart people, intellectual people, clear thinkers. And I think it gives you a real good idea of like how to have a conversation. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I find it difficult and awkward to speak to people sometimes.
mm-hmm.
It's weird. Because I mean, I very much enjoy my own company. So when it comes to actually having conversations with other people, for me, that's given me some real good ideas of like what questions to ask, how to ask questions, how to actually speak and listen to people, and then also just like how to think. Like I think Jordan Peterson's a great example of someone who you would literally, what people do, they pay to go and watch him speak, but to also hear him essentially think and think out loud on stage. Like he said, I remember listening to something that he was doing a few months back, and he was basically saying like when he goes and does his world tour and his book tours and things like that, he'll go onto stage in an evening, and there'll be some nights where there'll be a few questions that are scripted down and he's going to answer those, but then there'll be some nights where he'll go up on stage and there is nothing on the table, and it's like just bring me your shit and I'll think through it.
That is exactly how we're taking this podcast right here. So I think we're gonna jump into a little bit about Alex Lenkowski's life. So if you kind of give us life on a postage stamp, and I think naturally we'll come up against things that will spark our interest and we can dig into. But yeah, what was life like living in the Lenkowski household? Where did it all begin?
Life's great. I was born in Sheffield, moved to Manchester.
What, you are Manchester born and bred? You're not red through and through?
No,
wow.
Yorkshire. I don't think many people seem to know that, but yeah, I was born in Sheffield, raised in Manchester. So I lived in Manchester from the age of 2 till like 17, 18. Went off down to university to Loughborough. Then went back to Sheffield, was working in Wakefield, and then moved back to Manchester. So I'm kind of doing a bit of a loop at the minute. So I'd quite like to break that cycle and stay in Manchester. So if you're in the Midlands and you want to hire me, please just like stay away. But yeah, then like obviously with anyone's life, there's always tons of shit in the middle, isn't there? So yeah, as a kid growing up, like I've got one younger brother. You've met him. You're a big fan.
Yes, so I met him. Right? Yeah. Oh, mate, we had a class time at the wedding. That table wine went. Yeah, things went left.
So he's 2 years younger than me. He is, I would say, the better version. He's the younger, probably more athletic, kinda more caring version. I definitely say that. He's definitely the kind of more caring, empathetic version. And yeah, like great time growing up with him as a kid because we were kind of like pretty much best mates, playing football, cricket, tennis, everything together. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's where we got competitive.
And you found that competing with your brother, like from childhood, do you think that drove you to be the kind of level athlete you are and to take performance as seriously as you do?
I mean, it can't hurt. So I mean, I will go back a little bit. So when me and my brother were quite young, parents split up. Fortunately, my dad, like, I'm so grateful to have, like, my opinion, but the best dad in the world. I'm sure everyone most people will say that about their dad, but for me, he's an absolute hero. He's an idol. He's someone who I look up to in terms of mindset, intelligence, general, like, again, ability to think, commitment to people, looking after people. Probably why I've got into coaching. And he's been a massive influence on my life, because he's always been there, whether it's taking me to sport, watching, like, he's traveled out to every single one of the GB games, comes to a lot of my American football games. Yeah, he's absolutely awesome. But my mum and my dad broke up when we were quite young. There were periods where obviously life was very, very tough. When I was kind of like, it was kind of weird the way it all happened. It was like one evening there was like an argument, and then the next morning, as a 5-year-old kid, you go downstairs and it's like, all right, dad's not here then. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Like, off we go, carry on. And then obviously you can imagine, I know a lot more now that I'm a bit older, and I've been spoken to by both parents, and I have a pretty clear picture in my own mind as to what's happened. But yeah, you go through the motions of dealing with that as a kid, and I don't think it really bothered me, but I think, I was certainly there for my brother quite a lot, and then my dad was always involved as much as he could possibly be. He went through a lot to make sure he was still part of our lives. And yeah, I suppose kind of with my brother, it was taking that leadership role in a way, if I was to look at it now. But
it's just being an older brother, really, isn't it? Because everything that they do, they replicate. And then I'm the younger brother, so I like to say that, like, you kind of learn from all of their mistakes and then you just build on it. But obviously, from a lot of households that break down, me for one, I'm very similar to you. My mum and dad broke up when I was like 2 or 3. Saw my dad for a little bit, but as soon as I got into like organised sports, weekends were taken up. And fortunately, I've got a stepdad in my life that has done everything for me. Can't fault him. As far as I'm concerned, he's my father. But obviously, your dad's still very much a huge part of your life, even now as a very much adult. He's still there for you, your key experiences, giving you advice and knowledge. And obviously, you mentioned the mindset that he gave you. How would you describe his mindset? Like, how has that kind of guided you and molded yourself into your career, how you take on challenges and things like that?
So this is where it kind of goes beyond me as an individual. It goes beyond my dad. It goes way, way, way back from there, and I'm sure probably further than I think. But it's pretty much the attitude and the mentality of you can handle anything. Like, you can pull with anything for a period of time and keep fighting. So there's one of the stories about my granddad that, do you know what, like, if you would get asked the question, like, who would you want to sit down with that isn't around anymore and have a dinner with or have a conversation with, and people might pick out superstars, megastars, and idols, but for me, I'd definitely pick my granddad. He'd be one of those people that I would love to just have an unedited, unfiltered conversation with, because from what I 18 years old, obviously in Poland, he was in a town called Masti. That was where the family came from, and like it's now part of Belarus. And if you've watched the film Defiance with Daniel Craig, that's kind of what life was like there. Like, they would essentially get invaded, and there was like small pockets of resistance that were fighting against the Germans and then the Russians. But my granddad, basically, I think he was about 18, went home, and it was like everyone had gone. Family, mum, dad, brothers, sisters, if he had any, we don't even know. Well, I don't know. I don't know if my dad probably knows, but everyone, 18-year-old, massive war kicking off. Like, what do you do? And he managed to deal with everything he could. He ended up, I think, during the war, got captured by the Germans, got deployed sort of digging trenches and stuff like that, escaped from that, got captured by the Russians, then escaped from there, got captured by the Germans again, escaped from there. And then there was one thing that was quite startling and standout when my dad was talking to me about this, and you could tell he was getting quite emotional. But I suppose, like, sometimes I think about it again, because it's like it's part of me now as well. Like, his DNA is, essentially in me. So there was one day where he was being transported, and I think him and some of his friends or guys that he was with, they were being transported. They were on a train. I think they were trying to get to Western Europe, and it got it got a flyover and it got just machine gunned to pieces. And the guy that was lying either side of him were both shot up and cut to ribbons, and he was absolutely fine. And when you hear things like that, you just think, what the fuck? Like, how lucky am I to be here?
Mm-hmm. It's mental. You hear stories like that, and like where one person survives out of like 1 million people, and it's like, it's amazing what like your human body, or just like, some people call it luck, some people call it fate, some people call it statistics, but you kind of get a sense of like that there must be something at play, that the reason that the lights just didn't turn off for you in that instance.
Yeah, like whether you call it fate, blind luck, I don't know. I don't know what you put it down to. I mean, is there another universe where that didn't happen and something else happened? I don't know. Like we were talking about this earlier, but yeah, for me, it's that mindset of like, you can put up with pretty much anything. You can fight your way through anything. Like you are essentially unbreakable as long as your mind is set on that path. Nothing can affect you.
I suppose if you've got that on your mind, yeah, like there's nothing in modern life in terms of struggles or fear that can really compare to things that our grandparents and people that have lived in war. Obviously, there's wars going on now, so that kind of resilience still lives on in human nature, and people are still having to go through incredible trials and tribulations. But if you've got that kind of awareness that your family's already done it, I suppose you kind of have responsibility to like not complain, because they've already worked so hard. What your granddad had to go through to get you into the country and provide your dad a life is crazy.
Yeah, and I think from there he pretty much made his way to Europe, came to the UK, and he was offered, so like at the end of the war when it was all finished, he was offered the opportunity to stay in the UK, or he could have gone and lived in Canada, and chose the UK, but obviously still can't speak a word of English. And
really,
so there he ended up meeting my grandma, and obviously that was that. And I mean, he was quite a staunch Catholic as well, but he ended up. I think he basically said to my dad that he'd given up on his faith, like from just based on the things that he'd seen in the war, things that had happened. He was just of the opinion like there cannot be a God, and unfortunately he died before I was old enough to be able to like really acknowledge him and who he was, what he'd been through, and understand him as a person. But yeah, it's crazy what people go through.
It is mental. So he was a Catholic, but obviously fighting for the resistance and helping Jewish people in Poland, I assume.
I don't know the exact ins and outs, but obviously it's just full scale war, isn't it? Like if your country's getting invaded, then what do? You pick up arms and you fight with everything you can. And I think I don't know, but this is something where I suppose I actually quite like being in the fight, and I actually really like it when the odds are against me. And I don't know why. I don't know where that comes from, but for whatever reason, it seems to excite me a little bit more. I mean, I'm obviously, I'm a big Man United fan. We used to have season tickets going to Old Trafford. I used to love it when we went 1-0 down, because it just brings that extra little bit more aggression and that excitability to the occasion, to the moment, to the scenario. And it's like similar in an American football game. Like if you go down and you're losing, for me that's exciting. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I actually seem to enjoy it more, because I think,
pressure definitely brings out the adrenaline. And well, like you have got some fucking big cojones and a lot of composure, because if for those of you that don't know, Alex is the kicker for the Great British National American Football Team. He has kicked the game-winning field goal for the team's first win in its current structure, and he's how many points did you score in Italy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let's just say, Alex, if Alex wanted to be in Canada kicking footballs in the CFL, he could be right now. But
yeah, I'd love to. I'd end up having to completely upend my life and do it, but yeah, that would have been pretty sick to be a pro. I think that was like one of my number one career choices: pro athlete, PT/coach. Then fallback was always going to be military, which I would have loved to go into special forces. That would have been absolutely mint. But yeah, like when it comes to that GB game, I think Italy, I probably scored. Did we score 21? Either way, I was just kicking PATs all day because we didn't attempt any field goals. We tried to run a fake, and the referees missed a bit of a bad one there, where one of our players, I think Henry, either fell over or he got tripped up, which I'm sure we'll speak to him about which version happened in reality. Stay on your feet, stay on your fucking feet, Henry. And then the France game, I'm still upset about that because I think there was a field goal earlier that we should have kicked where it ended up getting blocked because I think ultimately, like, we don't get enough. Well, when you're in the GB national program, you get essentially starting running backs filling in as wing backs on the field goal unit, and the same goes for people in other positions on special teams. Like, it's people in the position where they don't normally do that job. Like, them being in that situation is like a completely oblivious, like completely.
Go on, Lenny, we're a kicker. We know what you want to say. Just say the blocking wasn't good enough.
No, but it's fucking hard. This is what I'm trying to say. It's a hard job. Like, even like go back to the France game, right? Go and watch the final PAT. And that was the other thing that annoyed me. I won it on a PAT. Like, so we kicked I think we kicked like a 51 or 52 yard field goal that got chalked off, got flagged for illegal formation. I don't think it was, but either way, that got binned. Then France went and scored in overtime. Missed the PAT. Then as soon as we scored, it was game over. I knew it was game over. It was finished. It was already done because there was only one outcome. I was either kicking Sam Bloomfield through the posts or the ball was going through anyway. But anyway, if you watch that PAT, Lewis Thomas, one of the best offensive linemen in the UK, he played in Europe, played for the Milano Seamen last year. I think he's at Paris this year.
Yes, he is.
He is incredible. Played with him at Tamworth, played with him through GB. And you watch him on that play, he ends up at the feet of Sam Bloomfield. Like, he nearly like gets smashed into Sam. So he gets blown up like 6 or 7. Like, he got fucked up a lot in that one play. And like, it's not an easy job. It's a hard job. But I remember lining up, looking at Sam, and I actually laughed a little bit to myself because I was just thought, like, all the years I've practiced, all the kicks I've done, all the long walks to the training field I've done, all those hours I've spent on my own, smacking balls, going fetching them, and it's come to this. 20 yards, something that I could do in a pair of wellies with my eyes shut. I just found it amusing because there was only ever going to be one outcome. So yeah.
I think I was more nervous than you were, just standing behind the post. I was like, oh my God. I was like, if I had this much pressure on me, I would have just crumbled.
I was not nervous whatsoever. Like, there wasn't it's weird because obviously before you go out and kick, you sometimes get like a little bit of anxiety, the heart rate picks up, you get a bit of adrenaline, you think, right, got to do this, because as a kicker there's only one outcome. Like, you have to make the kick every single time. If you miss, that, like, essentially for me, that's like job over. You're done. You can't miss. It's not like, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre when you consider like people in the Premier League miss penalties all the time and miss the target. It's a hard job with like a lot riding on it and the expectation that you have to make it every single time. So
It definitely is. So I think it's one of those. It's another one of those underloved positions until it goes wrong. Because it's one of them ones. Oh well, they're a kicker. They should kick. And I'm like, well, no. There are 11 people trying to stop him. Unlike penalties, where there's a goalkeeper in front of you, there's still 11 men trying to block you. And if it goes wrong, it's all your fault. But if you win, then you've just kind of done your job. You get a few pats on the head, cheers, but people are just like, oh, well, if we didn't score, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to kick. So
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those ones, but I definitely appreciate it, and I feel a lot safer knowing that I've got you on my team. Well, on my national team anyway. You've run up north, and I suppose you're saving the planet because you don't drive for 4 hours just to come training. But
Yeah.
sticky subject. But let's jump into.
Have you got over that yet?
Yeah, I'm over it. We don't need you. We'll go for two. We'll go for two every time. It's fine.
Oh, that'll hurt me. Watching
Actually, no.
that.
Tyler's coming to Tamworth with me. So you're.
Oh, is he actually?
You're
Is he
apprentice.
finally? Is he
Oh yeah, he's
finally
getting in
doing
the car with me, isn't he?
Good. I told him he needed to do that.
Yeah, but let's dive into little Lenkowski's life, where obviously you've mentioned your mindset and this kind of stubbornness. Have you always had that? What was you like growing up in terms of sport? Because obviously now you play very much an isolated sport as a kicker. You're one man, you're on your own 9 times out of 10. What were you like in team sports or at school?
So, team sports, it was very much the mentality of like, I will sacrifice myself for the team. Like, I will do anything I have to do to make sure that we win. Like, that was it. And it still is. Like, even though I'm a kicker now, I think I've kind of reframed it in my own head. Whereas, I suppose some people could view it as selfish or it could be like egotistical. But the way that I see it is if I'm looking after me and I do my job and I execute, the team benefits. And then if there's anything else that I can do extra to help the team beyond that, then well, I'll fucking do it.
Yeah, I think like American football is the ultimate team sport because it's one of them things where it is literally one-on-one in every position. And unlike football, if your striker's shit, you're not necessarily going to concede goals. Like you can have a draw. Whereas if there's one person on the team, especially well, if we look at a defense, if there's one person not doing a job, you can exploit that over and over and over again and win a game. And the same as with kicking. If you're lacking on that one side of the field, then you can lose games quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there is no place to hide. I mean, I suppose like growing up as a kid, I'm very different now to the way that I used to be. Obviously, I'm fucking different. My hair used to be white. But yeah, I was like quite shy, very quiet. But when I was playing sport, when I was playing football was my main one. When I was playing football, when I was playing cricket, all that kind of went away. And it's almost like something, I don't know whether it was just because I was very good at it and I was just naturally more confident when I was on a football pitch, but it was like, that was the one, like for me for a long time, like whenever anything bad happened, the one thing that I wanted to do was just get a football out, go out in the back garden, go onto the street, just kick a ball around, even if I was on my own. Something I used to do for hours with my brother. We had our first house that I can really remember. We lived in the bottom of an avenue which had a bit of a slope on it, and I think this is where the American football stuff comes from. So we used to have like a mini size 3 football, and I would even go out on my own, and I just used to stand at the bottom of the road, and I just used to ping it as hard as I could, as high as I could, as far as I could, up the road, and it was like a narrow channel, it's like literally like a set of posts, smacking it up there again and again and again for it to roll back down the hill. And as soon as it came back down to me, I'd hit it on the roll as well. I was so boring as a kid, mate. So boring.
Honestly, you can either take it as a sob story of poor Lenny playing out in the street, or you can look at it as like he was a young David Goggins and he did 100 reps of kicks every day. Woke up out in the rain, in the sleet, in the snow. Alex Lenkowski was there kicking the size 3 football, preparing for the day. When it all came down to one time when he needed to kick that PAT to get that final point. Great Britain versus France. 7 is greater than 6, as many of the coaches have now got tattooed on them.
Absolutely, and so they should. And but yeah, I just used to stand at the bottom of that hill, just twatting the ball up it all like for hour after hour after hour. And yeah, I just felt relaxed. It was so weird, like for something so something so boring.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily even easy. It's like, it's cold, it's windy, it's raining sometimes, and I'm just not, I don't give a shit. I'm not bothered whatsoever. I'm just stood out there just whacking the ball. And that was just what I did.
What
So
was your brother doing at this point when you were just booting the ball? Was he?
probably eating crisps or playing Call of Duty or something like that, or on the PlayStation. That was always his thing. He used to just go upstairs and sit and munch on crisps. I don't even know. Like, he might have even been too young back then to be playing on the PlayStation. Probably just sat in his armchair or his high chair eating his spaghetti hoops. But yeah, there were like quite a lot. There were times where I'd stick him at the top of the hill and I'd just smack it at him, and then he'd ping it back down to me. And yeah, that was kind of the start of me just kicking balls, I reckon.
So you mentioned earlier, and it comes to a surprise to me. Well, somewhat surprised, because I know how a lot of things can change over time. Because now you strike me as someone who is supremely comfortable and confident in their own skin, knows what they want, is not scared to upset people, and you're quite outgoing and outspoken now. And it's obviously a lot of things can change, but you mentioned that you were quite quiet, somewhat antisocial as a child. Have you reflected on why that was, or what caused that to change?
I don't know. I don't know where it came from in the first place. It was always very quiet, very shy, like you said, antisocial. I did get bullied in primary school as a kid, like, because I had white hair. Actually, funnily enough, I got called granddad because I had white hair.
Honestly, man, kids are horrible.
I look back at it now and I just think, do you know what? I wish I'd have just fucking nutted you. Like, just so weird, some of the things that got said, and it always seemed like it was directed at me. And I don't know whether that was because I never gave any of it out. I never really picked on other people. Like, and I think that was probably the kind of situation where I became very, very self-conscious. And yeah, for some reason that kind of just eats away at you. And I kind of went into a bit of a shell, and I just thought, I don't really want to socialize with people. I don't really want to hang around with people, because, like, I was quite sensitive. I was very sensitive as a child, a little bit like my dog, like very sensitive, like really, really nice, really calm, really, well put together. But as soon as you upset him, that's it. Really sensitive. It really hits him in the feelings. And yeah, that was me as a kid. And now I suppose it's very different. I'm a bit more thick-skinned, but I think probably thick-skinned because I've been through some shit. I'd had the piss taken out of me, and I think during the start of my PT career, I did a lot, and I mean a lot of self-development. I did courses, read loads of books, but didn't just read the books, did the homework that came with it, all kinds of personality testing, and even now continue to do it. And you kind of figure out things that have happened in your life, how they might have influenced you, how they might have impacted you. So if you have a particular event, it's, well, how did you feel about that at the time? Like, what do you think about it now? Why do you think you behaved in that way? And why do you think you dealt with it in the way that you did? And as soon as you start reflecting on those kinds of things, and I suppose picking it apart a little bit, you can realize how unreasonable, like looking back at the situation where I was getting bullied because of my hair, you think, well, those kids were fucking idiots. Like, there's nothing wrong with my hair. Like, my hair's my hair. Like, it's my hair. Leave me alone. Like, if you've got a problem with it, fuck off.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's not worth getting upset about it. And I think obviously people go through far worse than that. I'm sure people have gone through far worse than me as a kid. But in terms of circumstances and things that you deal with, like feeling self-conscious and not being very outgoing and bottling up, you have to figure it out. You have to get inside your own head, work it out, and develop that tough mentality to the point. And you also have to own up to your faults as well. Like, if you know you're not perfect, well, why are you not perfect? What is perfect? What are your faults? If you can front up to that and own it, I think probably one of my best analogies for this. Have you seen the film 8 Mile?
No, I haven't. It is on the list, but I'm aware of it.
So I might have even told you about this before, but like one of my favorite scenes from that is kind of like the final rap battle where Eminem gets up and basically he goes first and he just owns himself. Like he basically sieves out all the bullshit that this other guy's about to say to him. And he's like, right, here's some shit on you. Now tell them something else that they don't know about me. And there's nothing else that anyone can say. Like you literally revealed yourself to the world. You've owned it.
Yeah.
To the point where people cannot take the piss anymore. And
but how do you go from there and make sure that you're not your own worst enemy? Because obviously we're our own biggest critics as well.
Yeah, but there's you strip yourself away. There is nothing that anyone can say to you. The military do the same thing. They completely strip you down. They beat the shit out of you. They pick on all your weaknesses, anything that they possibly can. If they see a slight mental weakness, bang, they're in. And if you can overcome that, what's anyone got? What have they got on you? Nothing. There is absolutely nothing that anyone can do to hurt you, touch you, and smash your feelings up. There is nothing they can do. You're untouchable.
So, okay, for the listeners, what would you say your one tip is to kind of battle any like lagging, low self-esteem from potentially being bullied as a child, or like comments that you've had growing up? What's your one tip on a postcard?
Self-awareness. Own up to it, front up to it. We've all got stuff bouncing around in our heads. And the problem when it bounces around in your heads is like a little echo chamber. It's the same thing rattling around again and again and again. Conjures up consistent negative thoughts in other areas, infects you every single day of your life in other areas, in areas that you wouldn't even expect it. If you can take that thing that's pissing you off, that's grated on you from either day one as a child, maybe it's the fact that your mum did something or your dad did something or something else happened to you, write it down. If you write it down, you make it real. You take the idea out of your head, so you clear your headspace in the first place, and getting clarity is always the first step. You have to do that. If you write it down, take it out of your head, put it on pen and paper, give it some form of existence in the real world, and then start to break it down if you want.
Yeah, kind of gives you that little sanity check as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to take it out of your head. You have to, if you cannot live in your own head, you have to get out of there. You have to filter.
I find that it was like one of the things, like I'm an ADHD coach and I've recently started receiving it. And one of my kind of goals for this week was to start a podcast. So this is why we're here. But one of the things that people with ADHD struggle with, and it kind of links to you saying you're quite an emotional child, quite sensitive, is this thing called rejection sensitive dysphoria. And this is something that people with ADHD experience, and it's extreme pain and negative feelings in response to real or perceived rejection. So like you said, not being picked at sport, being picked on and bullied. I get it, silly little things, because it's above and beyond what you should react to. It's one of them things where, me and my mates are out and I'm like, should we go to Nando's? And someone's like, nah, that's a shit idea. Let's go get a curry. I'm like, fuck, they think that's the worst thing and they hate me now. But in reality, they just want to eat somewhere else. So that's like one thing that kind of like feeds into it. But back to, but like if we go back to getting it out, this is where I was going. Sorry, went on a bit of a tangent there. My coach was like to me, she says, what's the worst case scenario? No one listens to your podcast. Sounds you exactly where you are. You don't have a podcast that anyone listens to. Or if we look at American football, people, I don't want to try out for GB. What if I don't get in this and the other? You're already not in. You're already not doing the thing. So trying to do the thing and failing, you're exactly where you are. And it's like coming up with your faults as well. I'm really inconsistent with things. If that's coming running around your head, write it down. And then you're like, well, I can make a choice, or I can find out why I'm inconsistent. I'm inconsistent because I don't like these things that I'm doing. Maybe. Am I inconsistent because I've got low confidence? Maybe. And then you can start addressing those things, can't you?
Yeah. I think that the worst thing that you can do is die wondering and not taking action. I think that's the worst thing that can possibly happen. Like there's weird things happen when you start putting yourself out there, because I think for a long time I wasn't involved on anything social media related. Like I didn't post, didn't want to be on it, didn't like my own personal perception of Instagram. So like here's an example. Like, right, I don't want to do Instagram because everything's fake on there and I don't want to be fake.
Yeah.
So I didn't do social media. So I just continued working in the gym, working with my clients, thinking I do a really good job with these guys. They'll go and tell everyone and I'll build my business that way. And it's like, kind of happens, but you're almost like some people's dirty little secret, especially with athletes. Like athletes don't necessarily want to talk about it a lot. They won't want to go, oh, I'm using this person as a coach. It's like a lot of the footballers that I train with. Sorry, I don't train with. I train that a lot of the footballers I coach. I'm thinking, get this guy in. He does really well. He's flying up through the squad, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, fucking hell! Like, what are you doing?" They'll be like, "Oh, I'll go and see this guy." Doesn't fucking happen. You're the dirty little secret on the side that they don't want to tell anybody about because it's like it's their own little performance boost.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like you have to play the game. But the reason that I didn't play the game on social media was because of my own perception. So I'm getting in my own way about it. And if you really think about it, you go, well, if I was to write that down, like Instagram is full of fake people. Okay, well, what's my interpretation of that? Currently, it's if I go on Instagram, I'm going to be fake. It's like, well, is that true? Are you fake? Well, no, it's not.
I can guarantee that you are probably the least fake person.
Well, good. Like that's the way I like to be. I like to think of myself as being very, very simple. I think that's probably fair.
So I wouldn't say simple. I'd say consistent.
Okay, consistent. Consistent's good.
You're consistent. You're consistent with your thoughts. You're an enigma.
So if you go right, okay, well, if everyone on Instagram's fake, and you don't want to go on there because you don't want to be fake, but you know you're not fake. Well, what if you went on there and you were just real? If you were just genuine, do you think that would work?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, yeah. Like, do you have to be like everyone else on there? No. But I think the evidence was, for me, it was like, well, if I go on Instagram, I won't be successful. I won't do a good job of it because I'm not one of those fake people. And it's the fake people that are like flying to the top. Yeah. And I had to fight the battle with myself of like, don't be a fake fucker. Probably tried some weird stuff. There was like, I can't, if I did, I don't even know what it was, but like things where you try and put like a little headline and like clickbaity stuff, like I fucking hate it. And I just thought, you know what? I'm perfectly happy with who I am, the way I do things. I'm just going to do what I do. And if people like it, they'll consume the content and I'll continuously like make progress, which is, I think that's kind of what's happening. But yeah, to think that my own thoughts and beliefs were actually stopping me in the first place. But that's the same thing with everything, isn't it? Like your own negative thoughts and beliefs, you get in your own way and think, fucking hell, stop it. Like the amount, and again, this was like a lot of the time growing up as a kid, I didn't ask anyone out. Like I didn't ask girls out. Like the girls I'd liked, and I'd be like, oh, I don't really want to ask her out. It's like, it's that fear of rejection and thinking, fuck, if I get rejected here, that means my self-worth is like through the floor. And in reality, it's not fucking true. But people do that kind of thing every day.
But you did have granddad hair, so maybe you were saving yourself some disappointment.
Mate, looking back on it now, I wish I still had that white hair.
You know, but they say the worst thing she can say is no. But what if it's like, do you know what? No, granddad's not my type. That's a lot worse than no.
I'll go, that's cool. I'm not even a dad yet. I haven't got any kids. That's fine. I'm not a granddad. I'll be like, fuck you.
I've got a Doberman. Do you like dogs?
Yeah. Someone asked me at dog training. They were like, I think they just came out with, oh, he's a right pussy puller, isn't he? I was like, you what? I was like, oh, I don't know. I haven't tested it. I mean, he probably would be, yeah. He's like walking around with a little celebrity.
Yeah, he is. He is a bit of a celebrity. But if I'm honest, I don't think Doberman's at the top of most girls' list. I think you've got like French bulldogs, sausage dogs, and all the dogs that you can put in purses above. But yeah, I like a Doberman. Yeah, they're kind of like, they're the best of both. They're like slim and athletic, but like ridiculously strong as well.
I like to think it's like me.
Yes.
I notice how.
But that's the thing. But the thing is, you're still very athletic. You just don't use any of it. Well, there's a lot of it goes into kicking, but then there's a lot of unused potential because I see all of. You do all of the workouts that you set me, and I'm like, how on earth is he doing this and then going for a 10K jog? All he needs to do is kick. He could be immensely overweight, but instead he spends most of his time absolutely kicking the shit out of himself.
Well, again, you know when you were saying that I'm consistent and I'm quite a genuine. I like to think I am quite a genuine person. One of the questions I've been asking myself frequently is like, if you just wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that comes into your head? One of the things that I've been going through is like, am I full of shit? As a genuine question.
What the first thing that comes into my head is?
Well, no, like for me at the minute, like this is one of the questions that I kind of ask myself.
No, I'm saying, do you know what the first thing that comes into my head is?
Oh, go on, please.
How many sets has Lenny set me for in the gym this morning?
Good.
And like my mate, he's a train to failure for 2 sets kind of guy, and he's out of the gym before I finish my warm up.
It's efficient. It is efficient. It does work. I've got a book here called The 1 Minute Workout, which is a series of CV type, I'd say, workouts where you can essentially like maximize your CV output and actually train and get improvements through just 1 minute of maximal effort, maximal intensity.
That's just called intercourse, isn't it?
Well, for some maybe.
1 minute of maximum effort.
Well, it's a hell of a minute.
But yeah, go on. You were going somewhere. If you can remember what you were talking about.
Yeah, just one of the questions I kind of ask myself when I wake up in the morning is just, am I full of shit?
Mm-hmm.
Am I who I think I am? Like, am I genuine? Am I genuinely doing what I say I'm going to do? And am I doing it on a frequent basis? And as soon as you think that and you go, right, dog, it's cold, wet, it's dark, it's pissing it down. Get outside, let's go. Right, we're off on a run, and that's it. We'll be out 10K, and it's like you get back, lungs bleeding, filthy, muddy, like trainers absolutely sopping wet.
Yeah.
And then, like normal routine now, I'll sit down, I'll do a bit of work, I'll do maybe a bit of podcasting, I'll do some video editing, and then later on it's right off down the gym, experiment, play around, kind of torch myself, try and cultivate things which are a combination of both useful for athletic performance basis, but also some of the things which are much more stressful for mental resilience purposes. So yeah, I play around, test a lot of the workouts on myself, or even just test elements of them on myself. Mm-hmm. And try and fill that through, because I think if I'm gonna kind of preach, you need to be this kind of person, like not just do this as an athlete, but as an athlete, be like this, be a mindful athlete, be a strong, powerful one, be a leader, be very conscious about your own actions, and be resilient beyond belief. Like if your back's to the wall, if you're backed into a corner, fucking mint, right, let's go.
Yeah. Take
the gloves off, let's go for a fight. Like that's, and I've always thought, like, again, probably comes back to my granddad and my dad and the way that I was brought up, but I suppose like one of the most, I don't know, I think probably Deji, the running backs coach for GB, well, obviously Deji, but Deji, the running backs coach for GB, one of the things that he said to me was like, he might have even prefaced it with, you're not a very likable person, but if there was one person I wanted to be in a fight with, like as in on my side, like you'd be there. I'd be like, oh, fucking good. Like that's for me, that's one of the best things anyone can say to me.
Yeah, I think I think that speaks to a lot of your integrity and your character. You're not one person to go back on what you say. And I know for a fact that whatever you're setting me in the gym, you've done. Because you're just a bit psychotic. You like punishing yourself. Like you've got to the point where you're like, oh, well, other kids tried to bully me. Do you know what? I'm going to fucking bully myself harder than anyone can bully me. And then no one can do anything worse to me. So that's why you push yourself.
It's a good strategy though, right?
Yeah, but why are you just kicking? Why aren't you taking people's heads off at linebacker next to me?
So I think well, obviously, I used to play running back. Snapped my ankle quite nicely, and basically resulted in me having a lot of time off work. For someone that's self-employed, like that entire situation sucked. So the season before, I'd been playing for a while. Because I was self-employed, I got insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I was playing running back a little bit more heavily than I was playing running back quite a lot. I thought, need insurance, kept it. And then at the end of that season, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to take a step back as a running back because there's other guys coming through behind me. Like Elliot Walters was playing quite a lot. Obviously, Deji was there. Hopey was there. And I thought, I don't really need to do it as much. So I probably won't. I'll probably just focus more on kicking and punting. I'm going to cancel my insurance. So binned off the insurance. And I think we'd already played a European game. I think we played 2 European games that year. It was after we'd won the national championship. And I ended up taking a couple of reps of running back, got a swing pass thrown to me. And it was so surreal. It was so weird. Like I remember running out on the swing route, and normally on a swing route as a running back, you're begging for the ball every single time because you've got 5 to 10 yards of open space in front of you. You just make one step and you can get around people. Anyway, I remember going out on the swing route and thinking, do not throw me the ball. Do not throw me the ball. Do not throw. He threw me the ball. I thought, fuck. And then went into contact. And all I remember is kind of seeing out the corner of my eye, my right foot pointing in the other direction. I was like, oh, mate, that's broken. Hit the floor. As I hit the floor, obviously, the guy's on top of me. As I'd hit the floor, my foot popped back. So if you imagine like your right foot, your right ankle, your foot turns outwards and is almost like pointing back on itself. So if it was on a clock face, if it's normally pointing at 12 o'clock, it was like down at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, that kind of angle.
Yeah.
Hit the floor, pops back. And I just remember lying there thinking, oh, this is shit. And had a lot of time off work. Like I was in hospital for 8 days before they operated, because it was so swollen. It just kept getting pushed back because they were like, if we stitch it up, we will not be able to. Sorry, if we open you up and we operate, we will not be able to close up the wound. So I was like, all right, fair enough. So I was in hospital for 8 days. Finally got operated on, left, and then it was like the entire summer period. It was just off.
If we just go back to the rep, was you thinking, please don't throw me the ball? Was you just kind of ruminating, not in it mentally before the ball was thrown? Or did you see what was in front of you in terms of like,
it was really weird. It was just like bad feeling. It was like almost, it was so surreal. It was like sixth sense. That's all it was. It was just because I have never at any point playing before had that thought, had that feeling.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, and I can kind of attest to that, but there's either like your way of looking at it, like it's fate, but I always think when people aren't sure going into a challenge or a tackle, they're going to get injured. Like when I injured my shoulder, it's because I went in too hard because I didn't feel like I was prepared and I lost my form. And I kind of like, it was one of them ones where like, you go into it, you're like, I need to try a bit extra hard here, or it's what we normally do isn't going to work. But obviously yours is more like a clairvoyant feeling, was it?
Yeah, honestly, that is the way that I would have to describe it, because I've never in my entire, apart from when here's an interesting one. I also got hit by a mum's car, hit by a car on my mum's birthday on my way into school. That was a similar situation, whereas like I thought it was the same kind of feeling when you see the car coming and you cannot get out of the way. It was that kind of feeling, but I'd not even looked out that corner of my eye to see where the guy was. So yeah, just ended up catching the ball and got leveled, and that was it, gone. So yeah, I think after that I kind of decided to take a step back from playing running back, but I'd already had a couple of concussions and thought, do you know what, there was one morning I went into work after a game. We'd played against Sheffield, and I'd done my morning session, seen my morning clients, and took my food out, went downstairs to like the lounge area, and I sat there I just got this Tupperware tub. It's really sad. I'd probably cry if I was in that situation again now. But I sat there, I looked at my food, and I nearly burst out crying. I got really emotional over a fucking tub of food and the fact that I was sat there in work and ended up like there were quite a few other symptoms. I was very nauseous, feeling sick, somewhat dizzy, headaches, and I was like, yeah, I need to go to the hospital and go to the doctors and get checked out. And did that later on in the afternoon. Got diagnosed with concussion, and I was like, fucking hell. And that was quite a hefty one as well. But I'd had a couple before that. Like there was a period at university where I had to miss a couple of games. I'd got one in a game. Mentioned about it during the day. Someone had seen something on one of the coaches had seen something on Twitter about me thinking that I'd got a concussion. He was like, let me check you out. Did an assessment. I was like, fuck's sake. I was like, this is why you don't go on Twitter. That's why you don't say anything on Twitter. don't say anything on Twitter ever. And yeah, I got pulled from that training session. I got really emotional about that as well. So again, I think that comes down to me wanting to sacrifice myself for the team, and you know, being happy as being, I suppose it's probably quite selfish actually, being the hero and being the one to die on his sword in a way. Like, yeah, it's the whole thing of like, if it came down to it for a winning moment, if it was like a kick to win it, or if something else was to happen, I would much rather have it on my shoulders than any other situation. So
that's good.
So that's why I don't play linebacker or running back. Concussions and injuries.
Wow. Like I knew you dabbled in running back, but I didn't know that was kind of like you were so involved with it. So that kind of leads me on to another question. Obviously, now you're a kicker, and that is kind of such an isolated part. How did you deal with kind of moving from that very integral, you're part of a big offensive unit where you play with the same people, you learn the drills, you're very much kind of one beating heart of a being, like you're all kind of connected, to then being something that's so isolated where, especially special teams, the people that you're playing with or working with can change every rep because someone's gassed, they're tired, they don't like special teams. And like you said many times, you're the only person in the kicking meetings. There's no group chat for kickers. It's just you. So how do you kind of deal with that transition and like what has it been tough, or have you kind of always been kind of prepared to be isolated?
It's been absolutely bliss. It's been absolutely beautiful. It's been really relaxing. It's really enjoyable. I'm in my own company. I can do my own thing. I can practice the way I want to practice. I can work on the things I want to work on. I'm quite self-reliant. Would that be the right way to say it? I'm quite, I think I do quite a reasonable job of managing myself.
You're very much internally motivated as well.
Yeah, and knowing what I need to do to perform. So I think I'd like to think I hold myself to quite a high standard. And I know that I will not shirk on the work or the reps. Like, I'll be out on the training pitch as soon as I possibly can. If I'll be first on as often as I can. And, you know, I'd always rather be last off because I'd always like to be practicing to the last minute. So I think the hardest thing for me about kicking is actually understanding that you have to take some time off between reps. And this is where the GB comes. Like, you'll see, if we're kicking in the morning session, I'm normally all right. I'm normally pretty good.
And is this where you moan about your leg hurting? I got poorly leg. I was kicking all day yesterday.
Honestly, you have no idea. Quite honestly, right? When I mean this, when I say it, all the workouts I've ever put you through, you have no idea. You have absolutely no fucking idea. It is. I'd love to make you do it one day. It's just something else. Like, you go through the entire morning session, obviously on your feet, but every kick is a maximal effort rep.
Yeah. So's American football. I'm having 300-pound men trying to push me into the ground.
Here we go. No, but it's because it's such an isolated movement.
Yeah.
And every rep is at 100%. Imagine if you took one small element of being a linebacker, like whether it's...
And kicking's not really very ergonomic, is it? Because realistically, you're trying to swing your foot so hard that your hip socket dislocates.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the amount of forces that go through your foot and your ankle. I mean, you've seen the pictures of the angle where like my body's leaning like that. The ankle's getting absolutely crushed. I have struggled with quite a bit of ankle pain and stuff like that. And
yeah, you are very unique. But I think that's like the ideal form because, like, I don't know what's the little outside ball thing in the middle of your foot, because you're basically balancing on that.
Yeah, yeah, so like you kind of in a really compromised position at high force, high speed, putting a lot of effort and a lot of rotation through the joint. Like it's a lot of wear and tear on the joint. I wouldn't be surprised. My balance is definitely better on my left foot than it is on my right, because I've spent so much longer standing on it and balancing on it.
Yeah.
The left leg's for standing on, the right leg's just for swinging at a ball. But yeah, so like you'll go through the morning session and you'll be like, everything will be good. And then the afternoon session comes along, and Tyler will attest to this as well. When we've done like field goal practice in the afternoon, it's almost like sometimes you just think, fucking hell, like it is so hard to get a good contact and keep everything, keep the form and keep driving straight through the ball. And then eventually you start losing a bit of power and you think, oh my God, like, and then your legs hanging off by the end of the day. It's very different. It's still physical, but it's just not getting whacked. And I think that was something that I liked playing at running back. That was something that I liked at running back, is the bruises, the hits, the random bits of swelling, like rolling over in the night and being like, fucking hell, what's that? That hurts. Like, and looking at your hip and going, oh, it's blue. Sweet.
Yeah. There's something quite gnarly about that. And like my girlfriend always says, oh, you look moldy. And I'm like, no, these are battle scars.
Yeah, but and this is the thing, like it's animalistic, isn't it? Like it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully the closest that we would ever come to being in a war zone is being on an American football field. And I think that's what special teams is. Special teams is exactly that. Like defense, I think everything's kind of a little bit more controlled, a little bit organized. Kickoff, anything can fucking happen. It's just so random, and some of the things that people do, and you could just get whacked out of nowhere. And I think that's what a lot of people don't really understand about American football, is like, obviously in rugby, everything's in front of you, unless you're running away from someone where they're trying to catch up to you. But it's not like you're going to turn and then all of a sudden out of nowhere just get absolutely leveled and blindsided.
That's
like,
what I would say. There's the difference like between American football is like rugby. Everyone's moving in the same direction. The defending team, the attacking team are both constantly moving. Whereas in American football, everyone's got a 10-yard run up and then they meet in the middle and they just sprint at each other over and over. And the fact that you're wearing pads means you have less regard for your own personal safety. Rugby players don't tackle with their head.
I was about to say that. Like one of the, so when I started playing American football, I had a proper baptism of fire. We had at the Tamworth Phoenix. My first season was with the Tamworth Phoenix, and we had a training camp at
university.
No, so I did, but my first season was with the Tamworth Phoenix. So I kind of started to get involved a little bit right at the end of that university season. So I missed the first year of the season where I was at university. Missed the first year. Got into it through the summer with Tamworth. Played senior Premiership football and then went back to university, and it was easy. It was weird, but yeah, I remember being at training camp and we were doing pass protection, right? Pass protection drill. This one was, so imagine like the quarterback is 5 yards deep, the running back is 1 yard further back, offset.
Yeah.
And then you've got your full complement of linebackers. So it was only pass protection versus linebackers. But your two outside linebackers, two middle linebackers. And it was like, right, so you're either going to have to block one of the two middle linebackers or one of the two outside linebackers. Coach is going to stand behind. He's going to point to the linebacker that's going to come. You've got to run up and meet him in the middle and block him. So I've got a 6 yard run up. He's got a 5 yard run up to the line of scrimmage. He's also about 6'4", 6'5", and an extra 40 kilos heavier. And it's just like there is no, like, if you can't cut block in that situation, there's nothing else there to slow him down. It is literally just bull rush after bull rush after bull rush. And it would not be, looking back on it now, no coach would do it. It would not be legal. You would stop the drill after the first one. Because I got honestly, I got the shit knocked out of me. I can't remember. There was one of the two options as a middle linebacker was John Varney, who's responsible for me playing American football in the first place. And then the other one, Beaumont, just called him Bo. Basically, he was a fucking, and he was one of the biggest men I've ever seen. And yeah, the pair of them just ran over me all day long, like time after time after time. And I just remember every time it happened, I was like, fuck's sake, got angry with myself, but I kind of walked back to the back of the line with the other running backs, and I just kind of thought to myself, right, what the fuck can I do here? And I started to think it through, and that was the only thing that concerned me. That was the only thing I was bothered about. Like when I lined up for the next rep, I was like, fucking send him again. And I just got run over again. And I thought, oh, fuck's sake, right, okay, what can I do? Just repeating that cycle. So yeah, it was tough. That was tough.
Just rearranging E equals MC squared over and over again to try and either make yourself faster or way heavier so that you can get more momentum. I think somehow we've managed to like skip how you started kicking, because from my knowledge, you've always been a football person, but did you ever play rugby? Like, is that what got you into kicking, or you were just...
No, never played rugby at any point in my entire life, because I value my face. So I'm quite... After I got hit by a car, I was like, well, I kind of value my teeth, and I don't like having any dentist work done. And rugby players don't seem to have teeth, so I was like, I'll leave that one.
So you're basically like the old Cowboys kicker that played soccer all of his life, football, and then found out that he was immensely talented at kicking a ball between two posts.
Yeah, so I basically got into American football by accident, where I was on campus at Loughborough Uni, was running for sports sec for one of the halls of residence, Butler Court, and I was out on the road. Basically, I don't know if I've still got it. I fucking hope to God it's nowhere to be seen. It'd be really embarrassing to watch it back now, but it was basically you had to make a video of yourself, and that was kind of like part of the hustings thing. And the whole theme of it was, right, you're going to be really shit at sports. So that was me. I was going to be really shit at sports. It was me doing multiple sports, like shanking footballs left, right, and centre, pinging rugby balls all over the place, nothing going through the post, like pool shots, being terrible at pool, like flicking the cue ball off the table, like that kind of stuff.
All in an aid to make sport more kind of open and inviting to people, yeah?
No, not at all. Not at all. This is a story about a hero. So at that point, so it's clips of me being shit at everything, right? And then one of my mates is like the mentor, the coach, and that's where you cut to like Qui-Gon Jinn, and there's like him saying something like, I can't remember which scene in Star Wars it was. It was out of the Phantom of Menace. It was you know when Qui-Gon Jinn's dying.
Nah, like, you lose me there, mate. I'm not a Star Wars boy, I'm afraid.
How can you not be a Star Wars? So like this, I can't. You digging me out earlier for listening to Apple Music, and you can't even watch fucking Star Wars.
No, because I had friends growing up.
Oh, there we go. I don't care. I didn't have any friends. So Star Wars was my friend. No, it's Qui-Gon Jinn, who's basically, he's dying, and he tells Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's like, promise me you must train the boy. You must train the boy. So my mate then goes, right, okay, I'm going to train you. So it's like, and then it just cuts to me doing all this awesome shit. And one of them, I was kicking a rugby ball through the rugby posts, and just kicked it from further and further back. And John Varney was with us at the time. He was playing for the Uni American football team. I was just kicking it through from the halfway line. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was a big deal. I was like, what? I was like, how is this a big thing? Like, how is this a big deal? Like, what do you mean people don't do this all the time? And
that is hilarious.
And then it got to the point where it was way like we would be on the halfway line, and he was like, this is the NFL record. I was like, okay, cool. Like ping, like knocked it through. And he was like, yeah, you should probably come and play. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll give it a try. Because I knew my dad was a American football fan. And that was it. That was my pathway in. I thought, like, my dad likes American football. I'll almost like, I'll do it as a bit of fun and something that my dad can enjoy and can get behind, and we can kind of, connect with each other about. And yeah, that was it.
That's fucking crazy. Like, I imagine just having like unknown talent. So, like, where was your what was the highest level of football you played? Like, was you ever in academies, that kind of thing?
So again, this is probably one of my biggest regrets. As a kid, I was good at football. I was decent at football. And
where'd you play? What position?
I played everywhere. So I played for the first team I got put into, junior football team. I got put in the B team, and that killed me. That absolutely killed me. And there were people telling me, they were like, you should be in the A team. You're good enough to be playing in the A team. And then the chat back was like, well, yeah, but we can't have all the good players in the A team. We need to put some good players in the B team. It was almost like I think now they've started calling teams different than like the Reds or the Blues, or I just got so irritated the fact I was in the fucking B team. Anyway, after a couple of seasons, I said, I was like, Mum, I want to play in the A team. So I got moved into the A team. The B team folded, mate. They fucking folded. Like they quit, they disbanded, they left the club. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but apparently there was a little bit of like kickoff.
Star player left, mate.
Hey, that was it. Like people falling out, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like I want to be really good. Like I wanted to be a professional footballer at the time, so that kind of happened, and then continued on the path, and eventually was invited for trials at a couple of different clubs. And there was a club I went to, it was Bury, and I remember doing the session. I don't know why, but I did the session, and I thought I played really, really well. And the coach came to see me at the end of the session, and he was like leaning into the car, and he was like, did really, really well tonight. Are you going to be back next week, kind of thing? And I just kind of sat there, and I said to my mum afterwards, I was like, I don't want to go back. I didn't enjoy it, but I'd done really well, but I hated it. For some reason, like there was just, I don't know whether it was just the way that football coaching was done at the time, but everyone was really, like we were kids. Everyone was just dead shouty, dead aggressive. Like they were basically punishing people for being shit and punishing the team for a performance of the weekend or whatever it was. And I just thought, fucking hell, like, what's this all about? And I think that was, again, I went into my shell. I went inside myself and I was like, don't want to be exposed to this. Don't like it. And just didn't have the confidence to kick on and take it to the next level. And again, probably one of my biggest regrets. And then there was another situation where I think my mum had said something like, oh, Man City want you down at their academy. And I was like, I was Man United fan through and through. I was like, nope, not happening. I was like, it's all right. I'll keep waiting. Eventually, Fergie, he'll write to me. He'll come and pick me up on my like 12th birthday or whatever. And I'll be like, yep, straight down there. And obviously that never happens. And you just think, fucking hell.
Oh, like, mate, you could have been in the City Academy.
Missed opportunities, missed chances. And yeah, I think, probably a bit of a regret. But yeah, it is what it is.
Well, obviously, you've got immensely talented legs.
And you also have to remember, Man City used to be shit as well before they got bought by the oil company. Then yeah, they used to be shit. So it wasn't a big deal at the time. It would be now.
Yeah, it reminds me similar to when I first started football, because like I started playing like organised football when I was 10, but I've got an older brother and I used to live like at a cul-de-sac with like loads of garages. So the garages were the goals, and I was always playing with my brother and like guys that were 5 years older than me. So when I started playing under 10s, like you, I made a friend at like this thing. It was just called like Soccer Saturdays or something like that. So you just go around with random people. And I met one guy, and he was playing for Soccer Stars at the time, who were like the local team. He played in the B team, so I went along with him. And because I knew him and they started there, they was like, we'll put you in the B team. So I was there, but I just used to kick the shit out of the A team striker, and he hated it to the point where he'd walk off the pitch and didn't play. But that was under 10s. I think we lost every single game by like several goals. But like when it came to under 11s, I moved up to the A team, was starting like left back for the entire thing. And then I was like, damn, like now that I'm playing with people my own age, I feel like I just like slumped. But football, I think long term, football wasn't for me, because like I just can't focus long term. I was in a cup final and I was watching people like on the sideline, like just dicking about, or like squirrels in the thing. And my dad would be like, Luke, concentrate. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Get back in. That's why I think it's perfect that like with ADHD and American football, that I only need to focus for 10 seconds at a time, and then I get a minute break to kind of reset myself.
I think I mean my attitude towards football now is very different to what it once was. I think now I'm realizing how much money is a factor, loyalty is nothing. It is literally just about a paycheck. The general work rate in football, I mean, you have to be extremely talented. You have to work incredibly hard to get to the level. But especially to play in the Premier League. But I'm working with kids at the minute, and you just think, I don't know. It's almost like they think because I'm at Man City at the age of 14 or at the age of 15, like I've made it. And even when they get a scholarship, and some of them are on a couple of grand a week, maybe they're off getting tattooed, buying cars, and you just think, you haven't played for the first team. Like, you're nowhere near.
It's all going to go downhill, and they've not got any of the life skills and stuff like that.
Well, when I was working in Wakefield, there was a guy who came into the gym, and there was another chap that he knew who was playing for the local team, which was Ossett United, and he was from Everton, and he was at the point where he was in their academy. He was on the verge of breaking into the first team, like $7,000 a week he was getting.
Jesus.
He was now playing non-league football way down in the middle of fucking nowhere, and he was a massive cocaine addict. And you just think, mate, you literally had it. You were so close.
Mm-hmm.
And you've just been distracted. And yeah, there's also for me, the work rate. I mean, you'll know this from playing American football. Like, you go onto the football field sometimes, and if you've trained hard, if you played through the week, if you had a game the previous weekend, you're always carrying something. There's always a knot, there's always a niggle, there's always an injury, there's always a bruise or something that hurts. You're never perfect. But a lot of footballers that come through these days, it's almost like conditions have to be absolutely spot on. Like, there was one of my clients at the weekend, I actually wrote this in one of my emails, where we were just doing RDLs, and I was like, right, let's go. And he went, wait, can you change music? I was like, right, okay, change the music. He was like, wait, not yet. Okay, now turn it up. And it had to be like the perfect point in the song at the perfect volume for him to be able to elevate his performance. And he stepped up. He was like, right, let's get some weight on the bar. I'm in the mood now. And I'm like, wait, but you can't play with fucking headphones in. Like, whatever those conditions have been created by having the tunes blaring and having your favorite songs on, you need to create that fucking circumstance, that environment in your own head, because you've got to apply that attitude that you just showed there when conditions are favorable to the football pitch, to the training pitch every single day. Like, you've got to bring that attitude and that mentality, not the one that's like kind of half-assed walking around, laughing and joking all the time. Like, you need to fucking take this shit seriously, because otherwise, what are you going to have to show for at the end of it? And it's just, yeah, you've got to move beyond the position and the circumstances where everything has to be perfect, and just fucking get on with it.
Yeah, that makes me think a lot, because when I'm in the gym, I won't say I go through the motions, but like, I'm definitely not have to cue up the song, this, that, and the other. But there's definitely ones where I'm like, okay, we'll just get through this set, rather than grinding through it and doing, like, absolutely kicking yourself. But I think it does take a special kind of drive and athlete to be able to be that on the edge, like maximum performance all the time.
So I have done is train without any music on. And it's where, when you were asking me like before about self-development and how did you kind of go from this sensitive like little kid that wasn't liked, wasn't sociable, and wasn't confident to who I am now. So I went to a Tony Robbins seminar down in London for a few days, and that was a pretty sick experience, because you get, I don't know if I've still got it in here somewhere. It'll be in one of my files, like locked away. But you do all this self-discovery stuff. You go through all these questions, and you have to read out the answers that you've written to some very, very personal questions to complete fucking strangers. And that's the weirdest thing about it. Like, you just basically breaking down your life misery, just offloading it all onto some goober that you're never going to see ever again.
Yeah.
And like, everyone's fucking crying. I mean, I wasn't crying. There was like 10,000 people in the room, and I'm talking about stuff, and like, there's this other random bloke in fucking tears, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, what are you crying for? Like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, what? Don't cry about it.
Were these broken down into like smaller groups, or was you talking to 10,000 people?
No. So this is like no. I wasn't. I wish I was talking to 10,000 people. I'd fucking love to do that one day. No, this was like it's a big seminar. So he's on stage. Like he sold like 10 to 20,000 tickets in is it the Excel Arena in London or something like? There's one of the big arenas in London. And like he basically delivers a seminar, delivers a talk, and then you go off, you do work in the workbook, and you're just intermingling with other people. But one of the things that he does is he uses the music, he uses the environment, he uses the emotions, generates the hype, and he gets you to kind of like wire those emotions and those feelings in with a physical cue and a physical trigger. And something that you can say in your own head. So you do it and you do it and you do it and you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it. So you're experiencing the vibe and you're practicing the physical, mental, emotional trigger to get yourself into that situation. So when you eventually take the music away, you can go fucking bang, I'm there. And you don't even need it. And he uses that to get you in a mental state where you can walk over flaming hot coals, and they are fucking hot, by the way. Although I'm not convinced. I think if it wasn't for the like 1 mile walk in barefoot down freezing cold corridors where the floor is absolutely frozen solid and you like your feet feel like ice by the time you get there and they're all numb, I think it might be a slightly different outcome for a few people. But you basically work yourself up into a state, in such a hype state where you can walk over hot coals. And can you apply that to everyday life? Can you activate those triggers yourself and take yourself into that into that headspace?
That is mental.
Mate, it was sick. It was absolutely class.
What was the bloody health and safety waiver that you did to sign up for this seminar?
I don't know if I signed one, but we got some like group discount tickets. So I think rather than, it's quite expensive. It might, because it's like a 4-day seminar. We only did the first 3 days. Even though we had access to all 4, because really weird, right? The 4th day was the start of Tamworth Phoenix pre-season, the year we won the Brit Bowl. And that morning I was driving from London up to training, and I sat in the car, and in another clairvoyant, very surreal moment, it's these kind of moments where I think I'm just plugged into a matrix and I've hacked it somehow. But I sat in the car.
You're getting signals from the other universe.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And I'm like sat in the car and I'm driving there. And I'm like, we're going to win the Brit Bowl. And that was it. Like, it was so weird. It was so weird. It was just that sixth sense kicking in again. But yeah, the 4th day, we missed that. We canned that off because it was all about going vegan and stuff like that. And it was the kind of place where, they were chucking a lump of butter in your coffee and going, here you go, that's good for you. You're going to lose weight now. And it's like, no, knobhead. You can't put a knob of butter in my coffee and tell me I'm going to lose weight. It doesn't work like that. But yeah, that was a pretty surreal experience. I think the tickets were actually quite expensive, but because we went as a big group, we got a massive discount. So that was a win.
Crazy. Nice. So what's the thing that you do now to get yourself into that physical state? What's the phrase or picture that you imagine right before that you need to get yourself like psyched up and kind of amped, get all of those nerves twitching, ready to perform?
So I'd say it's changed slightly.
Yeah.
So
is it blue milk now?
Hey, listen, you can't go wrong with a bit of blue milk in your life. Everyone needs it. I think so. I tell you what it was. It was a big full-on, like, it was a big fist pump. It was like, fucking let's go. And it was just that you fucking feel. Oh, I can even feel it now. Like the tension through your body is like, fucking let's go. Like that kind of thing, that kind of feeling just gets you hyped and pumped with adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
If you see me do that before I go and kick something, calm me down. Like that won't work. That's not where I need to be unless it's a kickoff and I'm annoyed. Actually, I tend to pump a bit better when I'm annoyed. But for the purposes of kicking field goals and kicking points and kicking in a straight line, the zone changes slightly. So it's more of a.
You have to be more zen.
It's just a breath, yeah. It's just a breath. And obviously for kicking, I have my own very specific set of circumstances that I go through to dial in for that specific moment. But as a general thing. Like, think about the shortcut to it for anyone that's thinking about doing it is think about your most energized state ever when you've been at your most excitable. Like, I don't know if anyone, like, do you watch I'm a Celebrity?
Yes, not this season. I
So,
try and avoid just reality TV. It melts my mind.
Same. So this one, I watched a bit of it with the missus, and the guy he was from like Made in Chelsea, Sam, like radio DJ, right?
The geese of ADHD.
Yeah, the geezer with ADHD, like proper ball of energy, like absolutely buzzing. Like, think about when you were at your most energized, when you felt like you could do anything. Like someone could say to you, right, go on run the marathon. You'd be like, fuck it, right, let's go. Like, almost like you're on crack cocaine kind of thing, and just absolutely buzzing. Where you've eaten like I don't know, some Blue Smarties or something. Like, think about that state that you were in then, how you felt, how you were breathing, what your physiology was like, what your posture was like. If you were speaking to someone, how were you talking? Were you talking fast? Were you talking slow? Were you being boring? Were you being quite like you fucking weren't, were you? You were absolutely buzzing, speaking 100 miles an hour, breathing fast, like wide-eyed, bushy-tail kind of thing. You can recreate that. Like, that's acting.
So you're basically trying to recreate fight or flight into yourself just on command.
Yeah, it's literally acting, and it's just practicing it. And this is one of the things that Tony Robbins did so well, where he just drilled it into you, like day after day after day. He just got you into the habit of saying yes, to the point where he could finish his seminar at the end of the day and go, right, does anyone want to pay $10,000 and come to a course over in the United States for 3 days or whatever? And you'd be like, fucking yeah, I want it. And I was like, I remember thinking this. I was like stood in the queue, and I'm like, I don't fucking need this. What's going on? I was like, I need to get out of it. But like, you're just in the mode of like doing things, taking action, and it's, can you replicate that on a consistent basis? Because I think, especially with anything difficult, it's never been done with, you'll never accomplish it with zero enthusiasm.
Yeah, definitely. It's the cliche that if you think you can't do it, you won't do it.
Yeah.
It's it's like when people don't know the weight that's on the bar and then they hit a PR and they're like, oh, and then they count it up afterwards and they're like, that was easy. And I failed less weight. It's mental that like the role the mind plays in things. Like like we say, it's your own worst enemy.
Yeah, and again, it's where it comes down to self-awareness, because if you can analyze yourself and catch yourself in those situations, you give yourself a chance to repeat it. Whereas if you're not self-aware, you just walk through life blissful ignorance and unable to replicate anything. And that's where you then kind of expect good things, important things to happen and work for you as a random accident. And hope isn't a strategy.
Okay, so before we close it out, we've been going for an hour and a half. We could probably go for another. You've said self-awareness is important. What was kind of like one thing that you needed to be honest with yourself, that you had to kind of admit to and fight to kind of start making those big leaps forward into the man you are now? And then hopefully some of our listeners and viewers will comment something that they've had to battle that has kind of changed their life and made them better.
Do you know, genuinely, I think that's a really good question. Genuinely, one of the things that I actually used to get bullied for was how seriously I take things. And even if it was like fucking around or fun, like I was always the one that would be like the I don't know, the one to put a downer on it, because I would just be like straight down the line, like
very literal.
Really, it's like, there is no fun anymore. Stop having fun. Let's win. It's that kind of thing. Oh, I'll tell you something else as well. But yeah, for me, it was accepted. Like, I wasn't liked because of the way I behaved and how serious I was and how direct I was. And again, I'm direct all the time. And I suppose direct. Yeah, I am direct pretty much all the time. I'll say what's on my mind. I won't hide it if I don't want to, because I don't like deceiving people. I don't believe in being false. I don't think it serves any benefit. Like, if I think someone's a cunt, I'll just tell them they're a cunt. If I think that they're a really nice person, I'll tell them they're a really nice person. If I think they're lying, I'll tell them they're lying. So I think it was when I got told, like, oh, you're so serious, you've got such a big ego, the point where I kind of thought, yeah, no, you're right, I am. And I don't mind that. And I started to roll with that and roll with who I was. it just kind of snowballed and grew, and now just involves me being a really self-righteous, obnoxious, vile human. And
so realistically, you embraced the character that people try to isolate you for, because it's just common society.
So I think what had happened is, like, they were saying things about me like, oh, you're so serious, and like you can't have any fun, and blah blah, and that was getting to me. And the reason it was getting to me was because it was fucking true. And it wasn't until I kind of went, yeah, do you know what? It is true, and that's fine. I don't mind that. I actually quite like being that kind of person. That's the kind of person I want to be.
Yeah.
And as soon as you make that decision and you come to terms with it, like if someone says to me now, it's like, oh, you can never have any fun. Why do you take it so seriously? You just go, yeah, I do take it seriously. I don't want to fucking beat you into the ground. Like if we're playing Monopoly or something, or if we're playing board games over Christmas, like Fiona must be absolutely fuming. Like, the moment she brought me into her life and into her family, they haven't won a single board game ever. So she's killed them. But that's my way of having fun. Like I have fun when I'm being serious and when I'm taking things to that extent. Like for me, that's interesting. That's entertaining. Like actually focusing and putting my effort and attention on it, that excites me. It's like we went and did like an adventure weekend with a load of our clients when I was PTing over in Wakefield. There were about, I think, 5 or 6 of us as trainers. We taken about maybe 5 to 10 clients each, so there's about 50 odd people there. And one of the tasks was an orienteering task. You've got a map. Everyone had a different start point. Everyone had a different list of objectives, and it was a good kind of like long walk, and you had to kind of find each like monument or little thing that had been photographed. And I was in the mode of kind of, I think at first I was like, oh, just have fun, it's all about the clients. Then I was in the mode of like, one of the other trainers went, right, first team to finish doesn't have to buy lunch or something like that. Like they made it competitive. And as soon as it became competitive, I was like, let's go. So you got to bear in mind, some of these people, they can't run. They're overweight. They're like 50 to 60 years old. Some of them even older. And you've got me as like one of the lead trainers, one of the more experienced ones. And I am literally like, I've got the map, I've got the sheet with everything on. We're fucking bolting up this hill. I'm bolting up there with one of the other trainers. Like, our team has become so spread out, probably over the course of like 400 meters or so. And race through. We were the first ones to finish. I was like, this is sick. Loved it. And then the guy who was like the guide was like, you know that one of your clients couldn't get over this, right? And I was like, oh, fuck's sake. And I got a real lecture about leadership and being a team person. And like, I just thought, oh, don't fucking need this. I was like, she can't get over a rock. It's her problem.
You're the coach, anyway. You should have given her the abilities to get over that rock.
No, I didn't answer back. I was like, listen, mate, I thought in my head, whilst I'm getting roasted for this, I was thinking, there is nothing I went over today that she cannot handle. Like, this is ridiculous. And I was disagreeing with him in my own head, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. And that was. But
that's just your personality showing through, winning above all else.
That was it. And it was just as soon as it was competitive, but it wasn't a selfish mindset. It was like, right, we're going to win this as a team. And that basically involved me running off and that kind of thing. I was like, oh. And then, we had a big team meeting about it the week after. And I got like, basically what happened in that team meeting was every single one of the trainers that was there, apart from the other guy who was with me, we both know that this was getting brought up. So we thought, I'm just going to sit here and take it. Anyway, every single one of them fired it at me. And I sat there and I was like, yeah. And I listened to it all, got pulled to shreds. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I know. I had a chat with Thingy Majiggy, like the guy that was running the course back at the thing, and he already told me everything. So I was like, I'm well aware of all this situation. I was like, is there anything else you want to add? And they were like, what? They were like, you already knew. I was like, yeah, of course I fucking knew. And they were all upset that they couldn't keep going and using me as a punch bag. Again, it's just another example of own up to the situation. If you've got someone that needs to complain to you because you've done something wrong, let them do it, own it, and then be like, yeah, is there anything else? I'm good.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's just me being
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's one of them ones, like, obviously you said you were a kid, you didn't have many friends, and people like somewhat ostracized you because you just didn't follow trends. You weren't a sheep. And I think a lot of people kind of, what frustrates people a lot now is that they've built lives that don't actually align to their values. Like they've got into a friendship group when they were 17 because they like playing football, and now they're in a friendship group of people that fucking do coke on the weekends and shit like that, and they never do anything that's mildly wholesome or social, and it kind of just affects their character. So I think, yeah, once you kind of learn to accept yourself for who you are, faults and all, then like you're just free, and it gives you so much more confidence.
Yeah, and I think again, go back to what I said to you at the start. Like that's one of the reasons why I think what you're doing now is absolutely class, because you've broken out of that cycle of being accountable to somebody else for work they want you to do, and now you found your own purpose. You've got your own vision. You're laying your own path and following that, as opposed to like following the orders and instructions handed down to you. And I think,
yeah,
if someone was to pull you aside out of your day-to-day life, if for anyone out there that's working a regular job, if someone was to pull you aside and go, is it what you really want? Is it what you choose? If your answer to that is yeah, cool, get back in the mixer. If the answer to that is no, you need to find your next thing. You need to find your way out. You need to find your purpose and find your own values. Because as soon as you work out your own values and what drives you and what powers you and where your purpose lies, you become 100 times more powerful as a person.
Yeah, and you'll find people that are like-minded. Like you've obviously amassed the people, a following, people that agree with you, even though you've said some really controversial stuff. But being authentic means that only people that you really want around you are going to stick around, because you basically tell everyone else to fuck off if they don't like it, and then you're free. You ain't got to worry about upsetting people because you've already told them to leave.
Yeah. Well, and this, I suppose, this is the thing. Like, if you're on social media,
a little bit of technical difficulties there.
If you don't like what they say, it's just, if you don't like what someone says, just unfollow them. You don't have to be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would always. I'm kind of hanging my hat on. There are more people that would prefer the truth than to have the wool pulled over their eyes. It's like, when someone goes, "Oh, do I look a bit overweight?" Yes, you do. Do you want some help getting a fitness plan together? Yes, you do. Okay. Do you want some help with some nutrition? Yes, you do. Okay, I feel slow. Yeah, you are fucking slow at the minute. Let's do some more sprint training. Oh, I feel really weak. The evidence suggests you are weak. Yes, that is good. Okay, let's work on it to get stronger now. Whereas if you just lie to people all the time, they don't actually go and take any action. Where's the benefit of that? Like, nobody improves. If you just say things to appease people and go, yeah, you can be a woman if you want, it's a lie. Like, it's not true.
Biology does not lie.
No, you can't. And this is the whole thing. Like, you can't just say things to appease people. Like, you're much better off just telling the truth, because then that's your fallback, isn't it? Like, you're never going to tie yourself in knots if you always tell the truth.
What's one piece of truth you need to tell me? You've not told me I'm slow, I'm fat, I'm weak. What have you been holding back? Or am I just perfect?
You need to get fucking fit and stop getting injured.
But yeah, there is that. But we're fit now. We've been cleared.
Yeah, now you've sorted your shoulder out. We need to start hitting things again.
Yeah. Oh, mate, honestly. But yeah, we're hitting things. I've been setting off alarms at the new gym, doing wall balls for you, and the fire alarms on the other side. But yeah, that's for another conversation, another day. But yeah, close it out. The kind of TLDR, top line didn't read, is get comfortable being yourself. I think that's the moral of today's podcast. And whether you were bullied as a little kid, had weird granddad hair, had ADHD, and had very questionable haircuts. One time I used to have a slick back ice gem. If you're brave enough to scroll through my Instagram, there's a lot of choices that were made that were wrong. But yeah, just learn to be yourself. I'm putting myself out there by putting a podcast, because I'm sure there's hundreds of friends that are like, oh, Luke thinks he's a celebrity now. No, I'm just interested in talking to people. I don't talk to my friends enough, and there's plenty of people that are very insightful that I'd love to hear from and learn from. So yeah, if you're interested in getting on the podcast of mine or Mr. Lenkowski's, get in touch with us. But yeah, I'd just like to say thank you, Lenny. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as usual. And yeah, thank you for being my first guest.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thank you very much. And that wraps up episode 1 of the Luke Neill Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and good night.